Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first ever live webinar. I'm Josh, the Chief of Staff here at ContentScale. I am joined by Julia McCoy, our Vice President of Marketing, and our social media head, Jeff, is in the comments. I'll be there shortly with him as soon as we go into Julia's teaching. So what I'd like you to do is the typical stuff. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't, and just get ready for Julia's teaching. It's awesome. She has a great slide deck, and we're looking forward to hearing that. We'll pass it on to her, and we'll just give us a couple of minutes to get people into the chat and into the stream, and we'll let her take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Great to be here with Josh and Jeff. We are 3 J's, right? There's a lot of J's in our team, actually, so that's kind of fun. But I'm really excited to be with you here, guys. Looks like we already have over 20 people and a bunch of comments. Paul is here. Pottery Crafters said good morning. Let us know in the comments where you're coming in from. I'd love to know. I'm in Texas. Jeff and Josh, you're in Indiana. Jeff I'm actually not aware. Sorry. My brain has packed a lot of information, I will tell you, in the last 3 weeks since being here, but it's been so much fun. Okay, Jeff's in South Carolina. Thank you so much. And Paul is in Southern California. Oliver's in Germany. Lay is in Maine. Kayla's in Indiana. And Kayla's coming from Primitive Star Quilt Shop. And I know Jackie uses ContentScale to create content. So amazing. I'm so glad you guys are here. Wow, we're at over 60 people from what I can see. Amazing. So we're going to get right into it. And how this is going to work is the first, let's say 20 minutes or so, I'm going to give you some details on how to use content with a whole new model, because we're in an age where you can produce content with AI as your baseline creator. And you don't have to do it humanly. That's insane. I can tell you, as a writer for the last decade, since 2011, I knew this day was coming. It was a matter of time, right? But the fact that we're here is still just mind-blowing to me. And we're here, honestly, because of ContentScale, right? It can write this kind of content that we want to publish on our blogs and our websites. If that wasn't a thing, I wouldn't be here. And probably neither would any of us. So we're here around something incredible. And what I'm going to share with you is how to 5x your time and your money on content creation. And one of my favorite things to say is you can eliminate all of the writer herding and the eternal frustration around this for good. So AI becomes the baseline of your content creation process. So we have a name for this, a framework, a model. We're calling it AIO, and I'm going to explain that today. So you definitely want to hang for the full thing. And right after I go through this training, it's going to be about 20 to 25 minutes. We're going to have 30 minutes of HotSeat live coaching where I will pick somebody from the audience and I'm going to write with them live using our tool. So you get to keep the blog after this presentation. I will send it to you through email. You get to keep the content piece. You get to publish it. It's yours. And I'm going to write it live on the spot and show you how we would edit it to make it better, right? Because that's a critical piece of this. You don't just want to go straight from the tool to publishing content. Neil is here from the Appreciation Company. We got so many people joining, people right here from Austin, Texas, where I'm at. Amazing. All right, so let's get into it. You guys ready? So I couldn't help but add this in because in December of 2022, I was on stage at Digital Marketer saying this. You still need a writer. AI is garbage. ChatGPT launched and it had over 1 million users adapt in 1 week in November. And I was a naysayer. I said ChatGPT is kind of garbage. It doesn't write good content. So here I am about 4 weeks later saying the robots are great. Goodbye, human writers. Okay. Not that drastic, right? Because what you're seeing, and this is a picture of me with the VP at Digital Marketer, Mark DeGrasse, and I was there filming the first ever video on another publication besides ours around the term AIO. And we're both pointing at it because Mark wanted to trademark it first, but we are. So what is AIO? Artificial Intelligence Optimization. It's the new standard, we believe, where you're going to go from human-only content creation to optimizing AI-written content. So did you follow that? That's a huge, huge shift. right? We're taking what used to be completely human hours, if not weeks of work, and now we're shifting to AI creating it, and we just need to optimize. Neil says in the comments with the Appreciation Company that ContentScale rocks. He's been using it for a month. Amazing. So cool. Neil is in the Content Hacker community as well, so love seeing that. So yes, we're here to say humans are still cool, right? Not saying humans are going to be replaced by the robots. In fact, that's not our message at all. What we believe is that human-only content writing is now going to be obsolete. Human-only content writing is now going to be obsolete. Because when every marketer, when every business owner, when every entrepreneur realizes what we can now do with content, like, you will never want to go back, right? It's like, this is a scale similar to when the internet came out. You just don't want to go back to analog. You don't want to go back to the yellow pages. It's so much easier to do it this way. So why the heck not? So switch your writers into AIO, and we're going to talk about how to do that. But, you know, for me, this was the fastest pivot I've ever made from December to January, being completely against AI, now to working as the VP of Marketing at ContentScale and being completely pro ContentScale's AI. And yes, still kind of anti-ChatGPT. And we'll talk about why that is in the next few minutes. So again, you know, if you're only creating content at a human process, you're going to be in the Stone Age pretty soon. So the human only process is very similar to like the skeleton writing in a book. Like, you no longer need to spend 8+ hours behind a computer writing that blog. That is gone. And it blows my mind to even say that. I just can't believe we're here. So the big questions around this, you know, why can't we use ChatGPT to generate a blog? Why are we paying for a tool like ContentScale? Why is that going to change the game? Why not ChatGPT? So we're talking about long form trust building content, right? The kind of content that marketers rely on to exponentially grow their traffic. You can't grow your traffic with short form content if your goal is to rank at the top of Google and pull in traffic the inbound way. You know, that can take thousands and thousands of words, 1,500, 2,500 word blogs. So the big question, and this stopped me, right, last summer of 2022, was this question: will Google even rank it? And who owns the copyright? That's another big question. So let's address these elephants in the room. What the heck is going on here? Can we publish content? Is it going to be kosher? So in April of 2022, Google came out and said in their guidelines that they were against AI-generated content. And, you know, John Mueller was on record saying that this is something that's not okay. Then the guidelines got revised in October of 2022. And in these guidelines, Google removed their mention, that statement of we are against AI-generated content. And in fact, Google doesn't directly mention it. What they come down on is spam, text that makes no sense, text that is generated without editing, right? Hence our AIO approach. You have to optimize the content. So here's Danny Sullivan causing a ruckus per usual on Twitter, saying, we haven't said AI content is bad. You kind of did. But he says, you know, content written for SEO is not what we want to rank. We want content written for readers, written for humans. So that's why the writer is not obsolete. Their role just changed, right? Their role has shifted into that AIO approach. So the short answer is that you can use AI to write SEO content, but you cannot skip the human review part. If you try to do that, not going to go well. That content probably won't go all that far. So this is the other elephant in the room. Who owns the actual copyright of this stuff if AI is generating it and it's not being humanly written, right? So the US Copyright Office actually has a statement on this. It says, and this is for the US, keep in mind, because these rules really differ according to the country. So the US Copyright Office says if a work is created by AI, then the copyright is owned by the person who owns the AI or has exclusive rights to it. This is why you do not want to copy and paste straight from ChatGPT to your website. don't do it. You will probably get in trouble. You could face a lawsuit later if this content is something that ChatGPT, OpenAI, wants to pursue. Because who's the stakeholder? Microsoft, not you, right? So this is something that is being ignored in a lot of marketing circles. But what this means is a tool like ContentScale, which was built by our founder, Justin McGill, an entrepreneur. So he built this tool for marketers. This is really a tool by the marketer for the marketers. By the people for the people. Pretty cool, right? But what that means with the copyright is that the copyright actually transfers down to you, because this isn't Microsoft we're talking about, right? This is an entrepreneur that created it for you. So ContentScale specifically is a stack of 3 different language builders. And I'm not a super technical person, but there's a lot of tech that went into it. It was a whole year of building with full-time developers before they actually were able to launch this. And that is really important. So the owner of our AI transfers that copyright down to you. That copyright goes to our clients. So that's something pretty special, and you really want to check into that. If you're using ChatGPT, if you're using Jasper, if you're using all of these tools, like, hey, is the copyright mine? Can you answer that question? Ask the hard questions, guys. It's actually why I'm even here at ContentScale. I asked Justin the hard questions and he was like, yeah, here's the honest answer. So these are the things you don't want to ignore, the elephants in the room when it comes to AI producing your content. So that out of the room. And if you have any questions on that, please drop them in the comments and I will look at those comments and answer those questions. We also have Q&A coming up at the end, but drop your question in now so I can see it. Because I know those are 2 big points, right? The copyright of the content. And then will this content even rank? Like, is Google going to frown on it? So moving forward, what is AIO? That's a big question, right? We've been getting that a lot because we're talking about this so much. This is going to be the new way that you can save serious time and money, and it'll still win for the writer, right? We've introduced a model where the writer still gets paid. And in fact, what I'm seeing with writers, I believe Tom is here. Tom Burkett in the comments, shout out to you. Loved your email. You were telling me like this takes so much stress off of your plate. And that's amazing, right? Because writing is freaking hard. You sit there and you sweat and you kind of pour your blood, sweat, and tears into your content. So now content just got way easier for the writer. My writer at Content Hacker, Alyssa, she's having a better life too, because we're adapting to this. Okay, so enough said. Here's the model. So what you're saving in this new model is literally 5 times the time. So it's 5 times faster at 1/4 the cost. I mean, we could probably end the session here and it would be a success, because just think about that. That's incredible. There's a tool out there that will save you 5 times the amount of time on your content creation and do it at 1/4 the cost. What? That's mind-boggling. Again, I can't believe we're here. Like, I knew this day was coming for years. Okay. Philosophical comments aside, the nuts and bolts here is that, on average, what we see in the SEO industry is you're paying around 8 cents a word. And honestly, you might be paying a lot more than that for content. And you're spending at least 4 hours to produce that 2,500 word informational value-based blog. And then you have a human editor, right? So you have multiple layers here. It's not just one human, it's typically 2. And sometimes it's you, if you are the founder, the entrepreneur, the executive that's involved in making sure this content's good. So there's an editor, right? $40 an hour. That's generally about an hour. Granted, you can edit more content in an hour, so that might be less, might go up depending on what the content piece is about. So that's the old model. Remember the skeleton we looked at the beginning of our hour here? So that's the skeleton sitting at the freaking desk. If you look at the new model, what we have is AI can produce that 4-hour, 8 cents a word piece in 5 minutes. What? And that's done with ContentScale. So the average price is $25 for the whole blog, around 0.09 cents a word. And then you still need to add that AIO layer. So that's our one human, right? So think about it. We went from 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, if you have to involve multiple people in the approval process, to just one human. And that's the AIO writer, which is a shift. So now you're editing the AI produced content. So 1 hour, 5 minutes versus 5 hours. And from $240 average per piece of content to $65 average per piece. So you're saving insane amounts of time and money. And when you think about it that way, you know, it's a no-brainer to adapt to the use of a tool like ContentScale, because it's not about, okay, this is a tool I have to pay for. It's not about that. It's about the money you start to save and the time you start to free up, which, you know, time is something that you don't get back. Like, that's incredible. And what I'm seeing with my writers, you know, and writers that I mentor, is that their creativity is coming back because they don't have to spend hours drumming up that sweat piece, right, of content, which is we go from the blank draft to something that's good. Ugh, that's hard, especially if you're talking about 2,500 words. So how do we shift into this new model? All right, it can feel a little bit like, whoa, this is kind of abrupt. How do I even do this? How do I get my writers acclimated? How do I do this? So let's talk about that. I built a framework to help you craft better content. Craft is the actual acronym to remember when you're editing content straight from AI. So the acronym goes like this. C stands for cutting the fluff. This is a big piece of the first step, right? You got to cut the fluff. These tools, just like a human writer, these tools generate content that has fluff, that has extra words. I mean, even me, right? Like, I've written 9 books by now, over 1,000 blog posts, and still my first draft has fluff. So if you ask me, this is no worse, then it's actually better than editing your human first draft, right? It's very similar. And that's what this whole process, this framework that I built, is actually based on. It's based on the exact human process that it would take to go through this from a human writer. Except now, you know, it's done in 10 minutes, or sorry, 5 minutes by an AI tool. So there's that. So the first step, you got to cut the fluff. You got to look for all the extra words. On the ContentScale blog, we have a list of 50 words that are very typical to fluff. So, you know, extra conjunctions, extra adjectives, extra words you really don't need. You got to cut those. So then the next step is R, which stands for reviewing. You want to edit this and optimize it to make it better. Optimization includes SEO. So our tool, ContentScale, which you're going to see, right, because we're going to switch to actually showing you this tool live. I'm going to write for one of you guys, depending on who raises their hand fast enough. So you're going to see it in action. But this tool on the right-hand side, you can see the keywords that you need to optimize the piece with, right? So you can actually see at a glance all of the keywords that you need to incorporate in that piece of content. And if we're talking a 2,500 word blog, then, you know, you have a lot of synonymous keywords to incorporate in that piece. And I'll tell you, that alone like took my writers 20 plus minutes just to pull those synonymous keywords from Google, right? So what we do at ContentScale, we have a proprietary crawler that searches the top of Google on the spot. And this to me was a game changer. When I learned that this tool does that, I was like, oh my gosh, what? So the minute you hit run that blog and add content to your queue, it's going and getting from the SERPs. It's analyzing the SERPs and pulling the top pieces of content that you have to compete against. So that's something I've been teaching like for years. You've got to go look at the top of Google, right? You got to make sure that if you're going to compete with those top 3, that it needs to be at least as good, preferably better. So this tool does that, and it can replace tools like Surf or SEO because you don't need additional pieces. You don't need additional SEO tools. It's all there. Okay. And again, we're going to switch to that in about 10 minutes coming up here, where I will write for one of you live, which is going to be so much fun. Okay, so the next piece is adding. What are we adding? Images, visuals, media, GIFs, you know, fun things like that. So you really want to tell a story through pictures, not just words, right? Because one image says 1,000 words. Yes, that's true. So you want to add those to the content. And you can do that directly in the editor. I'm telling you, this tool has replaced Microsoft Word for me. It's replaced WordPress, visual editor, all of it. So then the F stands for fact checking. And this one is, I'm excited about it, you know, because this is something that not a lot of weight or even mention is put on. Like there's not a lot of weight put on fact checking, but you got to fact check, right? You can't skip that part. So that is something you want to do. You want to read through the facts that the AI writes, and you want to make sure those are correct. And whenever it comes to describing proprietary things, like let's say we were telling the tool to write a blog about AIO, it might not really know how to describe that, right? Because the facts on that are new. So you want to think about that whenever you're fact checking, is how unique is this to a person or an entity, right? Well, then I might have to go to that person and get more details from them. Again, you would do this for a human writer anyway. So it's really no different. So checking all your facts, don't, never let it go straight from the tool to your blog and published. No, we fact check, we add images, we review it, we optimize it, we cut the fluff. And then the last one is trust building. How do you build trust? In a long form piece of content, you add story, you add your own tone to it, and then you add links to additional resources, links to additional studies, links to your own content. Eric is asking, where do you fact check specifically? So I'll show you how I do that in the process. It's really a manual process. If it's like, let's say we were talking about the history of SEO, and the tool says Matt Cutts came up with the term SEO. Well, I'm going to copy that sentence, drop it in Google, and do some research, right, on my own to see, okay, is this actually a term that Matt Cutts came up with? It's not, by the way. So, you still got to do the human research. You can't just skip that part. That is really critical. And honestly, that's what helps your content stand apart, right? It makes it unique and special. Like Tom here, you write for a financial company. The founder of that financial company has somebody podcasting, I think it's like twice a week. And on the podcast, he's saying unique and really in-depth things. So those are things that these tools, right, they're not going to know. And a human writer wouldn't know either. So you got to go listen to that podcast, take those notes, build them into the content, right? So the human touch, like you won't be replaced if you're following this process and adapting, because the human touch is still so needed. Okay. So it's time for the hot seat. So I've done this a couple times and it's been so much fun. So what I'm going to do is switch on over to, I'm going to add a browser here to the screen, and it's going to be the ContentScale app. So you're going to actually see the back end, and then we're going to add a new project and write content. So let me pull that up on my screen here. And while I'm doing that, somebody in the comments, get ready and raise your hand and tell us the name of your website. So do not write the whole, like don't write.com or, whatever your website is, because I think YouTube will block that comment. So tell us the name of your website in the comments. Okay. And I'm going to pull up in a new window. And what we're going to do, again, just to clarify here, what we're going to do is use the tool ContentScale to actually write a blog for you. We're going to do it live together. And I'm going to apply the framework so you can actually see what it looks like to edit the content. Okay, we got a ton coming in. Jeff, who was the first one? I have Jeff, our producer, here in the background. He's going to let me know who the first person was. And there's a lot of comments that came in. So we'll give Jeff a second here. They're still coming in. Amazing, you guys. I'm thrilled to see you participating and being a part of this, because this is such an important topic. Like, to me, it's the biggest topic of the century, right? It's like, there's been some pretty big topics this century, with 2020 and everything that's happened. Okay, we have our first website. So let me go ahead and add to the screen. Okay. I'm going to hit share screen, and then we're going to move on over to the background of the tool. All right. And then Jeff, let me know if you can see everything, because I'm in a new window and I cannot see the back end anymore. Okay. So what we're going to do is pull up the website. And Jeff, tell me who this is. So we got heymarvelous.com. I love that. What a fun domain name. Heymarvelous.com. Focus on your teaching, not your tech. Very cool. Empowering creators to build and sell online courses, memberships, communities, and coaching programs. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do when you sign up for ContentScale is you're going to add a new project. So this is how you start creating content, right? So first, the project name, it's going to be your company or your website name. I'm going to put her website right here. And I'm going to grab the name. It looks like it's just Hey Marvelous, right? So it's those 2 words. And let me know if we have any comments and tell me who this is, Jeff. I'm not seeing. I'm just going to go to her about page. Let's see here. We aren't bros and we're not building tech to eat the world. Or I like your tone of voice. It's very standout. Jenny and Sandy. Okay. So you are the creators of this from the about page. Let me know in the comments like what your tone of voice would be, you know, if you can describe it, because we're going to do that as well here in the actual new project. Okay, so your company name is Hey Marvelous. Going to write that in. And you can also set how many posts you want to write per month, just to set a goal for yourself. And we can also create some context for your project. So context is like a short sentence that describes what it is you do. So what I like to do is look at the homepage, and if you have one sentence that summarizes everything, that's usually a good sentence to put there, right? Okay, so that's our context. Empowering creators to build and sell online courses, memberships, communities, and coaching programs. Okay, and Jeff, if we have any comments from Jenny and Sandy, let me see. That was their names from the about page. Let me know. Just paste them on over to Slack so I can see them, since I cannot see the screen at the moment for comments. Okay, so going back to setting up the project, we're going to choose a tone of voice and we're going to describe the audience. All right, so it looks like the audience are content creators and course sellers. We might want to say like entrepreneurs as well, right? So we want to describe that. And we can keep that pretty brief, simple, straight to the point. So the tone of voice, we have some choices here: authoritative, bold, casual, dramatic, excited, feminine, grumpy, happy, informative. So if there's a tone of voice that you have, let us know in the comments. Jenny and Sandy, or either one of you, whoever's here with us, so that we can pick the right tone of voice, because we have different choices. You know, it kind of looks like you could be a blend between, okay, she says, welcome, friendly, empowering. I like it. Let's see. Welcome, friendly, empowering. I don't think we have those exact words in here, but we do have synonymous words for sure. So something that I would suggest just from looking at your website is potentially witty. I don't know if you would say you're sarcastic. Probably not. I mean, I did see some digs, right? I like that a lot. But let's just go with, let's see, welcome, friendly, empowering. What choice from the dropdown would you put here? Okay, Justin just told me we can type in anything we want for the tone of voice. I didn't know that. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's amazing. So I'm going to put empowering, because that's probably your top one out of those 3. And then for the target audience, let's say solopreneurs instead of entrepreneurs. Okay. All right. So I'm going to click create content and create project. And what I'd love to know is, are you currently working on your blog? So do you have anything ranking in the top of Google? And she says, yeah, we're a bit witty. Yeah, I thought so. That would be a good choice. But I didn't know you could type it one in. That's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to look for a blog on your site, but tell me what you're doing with it. Are you blogging? Are you going after Google rankings and keywords? Okay, I see some really great topics going on here. So you definitely know what you're doing. Nice. This is cool. The best online business tools. So if I was to guess, this could be a keyword, right, that you're trying to rank for. Amazing. This is a good blog. Okay, so do you have a blog in your queue? Do you have a blog topic that you want to write? Because what I can do is put it in the keyword put it in our keyword here. So whenever you're adding content, this is what it looks like in ContentScale, right? Once we have the project set up, then we go to projects. You're going to see it here. As you can see, I have a few going on. So inside your project, you can add content. So we're going to click that. And this is all you need to get going. A target keyword and then the context for that piece. So do you have a target keyword in your content calendar? And we will actually write that piece of content for you here and now. So Jeff is telling me you are trying to blog weekly and doing keyword research. So a blog topic would be blogs versus newsletters. And I'd love to, let's see, blogs versus newsletters. So would you want to rank for, I'm trying to think of the search volume and, you know, how people would search for that. How to write a blog versus a newsletter, or should I do a blog versus a newsletter? Is that like what your audience would look for? Because what we could do is kind of go after that keyword. Okay, so blogs, I'm just going to type this in to get it going here. Blogs versus newsletters. And then let's see what that looks like. Because what we want to do is kind of get a natural keyword, right? That somebody would type into Google, an informational keyword. That helps us generate the best informational value-driven blogs. So if I typed that into, and ideally, you know, I'm sure you're doing this, is to use a keyword research tool, right? Now let's see. I'm trying to see if anything, okay. So it is an indexed keyword, right? Blogs versus newspaper. No, it's not the keyword we're going for. Blogs versus newsletter. So it's not really an index keyword. So what I was going to do, and let me just go ahead and do this for you, is I would open up my keyword research tool, right? And I would find the right kind of keyword. So let's see, blogs versus newsletters. Now let's see what comes up, because we always want the data to drive the keyword that we pick. Okay, that's interesting. There's no traffic data on it yet, but I will tell you, yeah, you can read this on the ContentScale blog with our blogs that talk about keyword research, which, by the way, if you're not subscribed, you should subscribe because we have some really good blogs coming out. There is a blog on there that goes through every step on keyword research. And it's actually the process that the team here uses in the Done For You services. So Jeff, if you want to get that, maybe we have a link we can give them to that blog that shows keyword research methods. So this is one, right? The hundreds of keywords in minutes. This is a great blog to read if you are not familiar with keyword research. So it's step by step, actually shows you how to do it, how to pull keywords. I think that's the right blog. So there's several on keyword research. Okay, but going back to that keyword. So if there's no traffic, that doesn't mean it's not a good keyword, because what that could mean is the traffic just hasn't caught up in the tool, right? Like we're seeing ChatGPT as a keyword. There's very little data on that. It's just because the tools haven't actually caught up with where people are at. So this could be a trending term, right? This could be something that your audience is actually looking up, but I would still be interested, you know, to see if there's a better keyword. Like, for example, the difference of blogs and newsletters. Let's see what that pulls up, if anything. It might not. Yeah, okay. Look at this. Okay, blog versus newsletter. And this is why you want to play around in a tool, right? Because you'll get to see what comes up for your keywords. So the main keyword we have was blogs versus newsletter. And it looks like if we take that plural off, this is actually a search term with over 300 people per month. It's trending quite a bit. 500 searches, almost 600 in January. Okay, so this is a keyword I would go after. You know, that's a good keyword. And the difficulty is 24. So amazing. All right, so let's put that into ContentScale and direct it to write a piece of content. So something that I like to do, and I know this is a little bit of an extra step, right? But especially if you're a solopreneur, if you have a little bit of time, you know, all it takes is 2 extra minutes, really. Put that keyword into Google and see what comes up. And then what comes up can actually help you direct the tool to write good content, right? Because sometimes half of the battle is getting a good prompt together. And I don't like to guess, right? I don't like to guess at the prompt. So I'm looking at what does Google actually like? What is ranking at the top of Google? And keep in mind, this tool is going to go and look at that, right? When we hit create content now, it's going to go look at what's in the top of Google and put that into the content on the spot, which is like magical. You know, I haven't found another tool that does that. Honestly, that alone makes this tool worth the price. Okay, so if we grab, let's say the featured snippet, right? And then what I want to do is like look at the first 2 results and see what is ranking just in that meta description. So in the featured snippets, I'm seeing that, you know, Google is preferring to rank content that talks about what is a blog, what is a newsletter. So that's how I would direct the tool. And I'd love to know, you know, for you guys behind the brand at Hey Marvelous, what would you want to tell this tool, right? Like what would be your instinct? What would your audience want to hear about? So that's something else, right? 2 things. We're going to look at the top of Google, see what Google prefers, and then we're going to think about what does our audience actually want. Okay, so I usually don't write on camera. So this is the hard part for me. But let's see. Okay, so write a blog that describes what a blog is. Very meta there. What a newsletter is. And this is just a draft to get out of my head. We're going to make it a little bit better. And how, let's see. If I go back to that featured snippet, I click on it. What I want to see is, you know, what kind of content is Google putting preference on? So it's definitely that what is, right? Seeing that right away. And then differences between them, the pros and cons. Bam, there we go. That's enough for my whole prompt. Okay, so what was the first part? It was the what is, the differences between, and then the pros and cons. What is differences between pros and cons? What a newsletter is, the pros and cons of both, differences between the 2, and the, okay. Now we're going to make sure this reads well. So write a blog that describes what a blog is versus what a newsletter is, differences between the 2, and the pros and cons of both. Okay, so I would say that is enough, and I'd love to, I know we have like the team that behind this tool is listening right now, which I really appreciate. So if you have a suggestion for how to word this best, let me know. And then, of course, the founders of Hey Marvelous, you know, what else would you want to tell your audience in this blog? Do you get questions? Like if you think about it, like if you have a sales team, maybe you're the sales team, what questions do you get on this topic from your audience? Like what did they want to know? So Jeff is, of course, monitoring our comments, and he'll look for that if you drop that in. What they are, what are the differences, and how they work together. Ooh, how they work together. I like that. Write a blog that describes what a blog is versus what a newsletter is, the differences between the 2. We're going to add in how they work together. That was a good suggestion. And the pros and cons of both. Okay, so I like this. At this point, I would click create content now. You can do 2 things. You can generate the brief, right? So if you click customize, you can actually see a content brief get generated on this left-hand side, which is pretty cool. And when that generates, you can move around the headers. So, you know, these are your, if you're familiar with the blog already, these are your H2s, your H3s if there's multiple subpoints below the main points. So you can actually drag and drop and move these around. You can also rerun it if you don't like it. So I'm curious, the ladies behind this brand, if this is something that you like, right? Like, would this answer your audience's questions? Because if not, you can always add a header and you can have this piece generate an additional section. So Jeff is letting me know you get questions from your audience mainly around how are they different and how they work together. Interesting. So I see that that's like the 3rd point, right? I like that. Like if it was the 5th point, I would probably move that up to 3, knowing that that's an FAQ that your audience asks a lot. So that's huge. Like this is sales content, right? Not just a blog. Like this is something that can answer your audience's questions and then move them forward into, okay, I now need to hire you. You need to consult for me. You need to build my course. You need to, right? Like what is it you do? This is closely tied to that. Right? If we think about, and guys, you can apply this to your brands. You think about what you actually do, right? So these people that we're building a blog for, she empowers creators to build and sell online courses. So the questions are going to be closely tied to answers that drive sales action, right? Okay, it's kind of a long-winded way to say it, but don't forget that. It's very good. Okay, so we're going to click Create Content Now, and what happens is it goes in the queue, and it usually takes around 5 minutes. So at this point, why don't we do, while we wait for it to write, and like, you know, this is real time, right? So if it breaks, it breaks, which I love. Like, this is what you need to see, right? This is transparency. So I'm going to go and just reload it. Usually it takes a couple minutes to show, and then around 5 minutes for the whole thing to be written. So with those 5 minutes, let's switch back to Q&A for a minute. And let me remove my screen. I mean, you guys probably don't want to see all that, right? And let me bring Josh back on for some Q&A facilitating. Josh, you are back on and unmuted.
All right, let me find my camera.
Sorry, that was kind of on the spot there, but I'm like, you know what? We need to make good use of these 5 minutes.
There we go. All right. Yeah. So I just had a question about Jasper and ContentScale. I'm going to put in the comments our full write-up on it. We have the full write-up, so you can visit that link. That's going to cover the differences between Jasper and ContentScale, but it is a common question, and I'm not going to single out Jasper. I'll just go most AI writing tools. And primarily the biggest difference is ours is an AI writer. You tell it what you want, kind of like a freelancer or an in-house writer, and it sends back the draft. An AI writing tool is more like you're literally picking up the hammer and using it to build your content. Now, our process is it sends you that content in advance, and then you can edit it. I ran a content agency for years. Always had the freelancer write the article, and then I edited it before I sent it to the content or to the client, excuse me. So
same here.
That is one common question. AJ, I see your comment. I'm just reading them as they go. Hey, yep, Jeff helping out there. We don't directly integrate with Grammarly, but it does work in our platform if you're signed into it. I use that as well. So yeah, it does work, but it's not a direct integration. David Straight, is there a WordPress integration? Yep, we have a WordPress plugin. It will pull in the content. It will set the keyword if you use like Rank Math or Yoast SEO. It will add the images, add the alt text to the images. It'll import the table of contents, and it'll also import your categories and things like that. You can even schedule it and publish it directly from the app. Nice, Paul. He says I use Grammarly. Right. Any recommendations?
That's the question, right, Jeff? Yeah. We have some content to create. We're working on a course for AIO at ContentScale. So that's a team initiative, right? That's going to be towards the end of Q1. Not saying it's going to be out then, but we're going to have an ETA on when that's going to happen. So our goal is to help people in the freelance industry adapt and become your next, AIO writer, AIO editor. So one thing we have that we're working on that we could probably get over to Jeff is, I put together a job post for an AIO writer. And so far, the writers I'm pulling in are spot on the correct type of writers, because you want writers that are actually open to these tools, right? Some are not. They're like, I don't want to touch it. So you need a writer that's willing to touch AI. And unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that are screwing this up because they are telling writers, don't use AI. And what that's doing is it's stopping writers from playing around with this, emerging technology that's going to change all our lives in content one day. So that is something that we'll probably get a blog post out, I would say. So again, subscribe to the blog. It's really good stuff. So in the next few weeks, we're going to get a blog post out I'll figure out how to do it, but a link to that AIO job posting. So yes, Jeff is saying you could share that AIO job description in your blog. He's already a customer. Okay, so we'll be sure to, if you want to email me, Julia@contentscale.ai. Don't spam me, people, please. But if Jeff wants to email me, I'll get that job posting over to you. So yes, that's a good question.
I see a lot of questions about roadmap and things like that. We have a ton. Justin is now getting back fully into product mode. We just added a lot of people to the dev team, a lot of talented people. And all I can say is keep in touch and stay. So if you want to subscribe to YouTube, we'll be making announcements there. Obviously, the email list, that's going to be where we're making a lot of announcements. So I definitely encourage you to subscribe and follow along. But yeah, we have a lot coming very, very soon. So including other frameworks. So not just informational blog posts, but that's all I'll say there. I'll kind of tease it out a little bit. And I also see a couple weeks ago. Yeah, Jonathan Rice, that's one of the things we will have out in terms of being able to pull from specific sources for both the content and facts. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out there. Does the plagiarism tool show what text is copied? Yes. If you go to the review tab, this is a little bit granular, but if you go to the review tab, you can run a Copyscape plagiarism check, and it will highlight the text that is directly copied. The team, not me, has worked very, very hard at reducing plagiarism because it is a common issue among AI writers. And I mean, obviously I'm biased, but we have one of the least amount of plagiarism out of any tool that I've used, and I've used a lot of them. I saw someone said a really granular approach. Our optimization tab, it does pull in NLP data, so you can see other keywords that relate to your primary keyword. Right now, the first number is the number of times it's in the content, and then the slash and the average is the number of times that it's usually in content. And as you improve that, it'll change colors to green if it's within the range, yellow if it's too many times, and orange if it's too few.
Awesome. And the article is actually written, so we should switch to it for Hey Marvelous, which I think they had that question. Those were the people that had the question about plagiarism. So let's go ahead and switch that. Do you think now's a good time? Josh, was there any other? We can get back to Q&A. Okay, Josh is already off screen. So let me go ahead and add this back to the screen. Okay. All right, so we're back at the tool and it says ready for optimization. Whenever you see this, it's ready to go. You can head in there and optimize it. And something I really like is whenever you see it, and I wish I could have switched back quicker, but we can't see it anymore. There's a status bar and you can actually hover on the status bar and see what it's doing. Like it'll tell you it's crawling SERP, it's writing the piece. So I thought that was really cool. You can actually see it work in action, but we can't. So because it's written, so click that button and this is what it looks like. The actual post. I know a lot of you are already using it. So you've seen this before, but Josh was explaining, right? On the right-hand side, we have the optimization section. So you can actually incorporate these keywords that were pulled on the spot from the top of Google. So these are, this is something like I've used ClearScope, Surf for SEO for. It's all here. So that's amazing. So if we think about the framework that I went through earlier, this AIO framework is something that you want to follow, right? Whenever you're editing content. So if we think about it, like for you, Hey Marvelous, right? If this blog was going to go on your site, oh, by the way, that blog post took a total of 3 minutes, 40 seconds. That's amazing. And how long is it? 2,500 words. I mean, we're living in new times, like I said that so many times. Sorry, but it's true. 2,500 words in less than 4 minutes. That's crazy. So the first thing you want to do is cut the fluff, and then the other steps really naturally flow in, right? So when you cut the fluff, you can also kind of do step 2, right? If you're a writer by trade, like, you know what I'm talking about. So whenever you're cutting the fluff, like, you're naturally going to optimize the content with more keywords. You're going to edit it. You're going to make it better. So whenever you're cutting the fluff, it also looks like breaking out paragraphs. And I really like the on-page checklist because you have a suggestion for that. Like, your paragraph should be 3 sentences or less, right? So it's crazy because, you can pay for courses on this, put writers through those courses, but like, you have a whole guide right here. You almost don't need an SEO course anymore. You have a guide at your fingertips. Okay. So whenever we're thinking about cutting the fluff, you want to make it more grammatically accurate. You want to go through it and make sure it reads well. And we're going to incorporate the keywords as well. So over here, Josh explained this. I am not technical, guys. So like, I screw technical explanations up. So if Josh explained this, he gave us some good intel on how these keywords, how this can be read. But I think how it goes, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, drop me a message on Slack. This is the amount of times the keyword is in the content, right? So it's in the content 4 times. And then over here, this is the range, the amount of times it usually shows up in the first piece of Google. Did you follow that? Because I might not have. But in other words, you need to hit this number at a minimum, right? So if you just remember that, you're good. So hit the minimum. And then what happens is this turns green. And if it turns green, then you've hit the minimum, you're good. So if blog versus newsletter, if the minimum is 12 times, right, that it appears in the top of Google, then that's how many times we need to put it into this piece of content. And I know we have like 10 minutes left, right? And if you think about the AIO process, how long does this take? I think we said an hour, right? So, and I'm not going to dig for my deck right now, but yeah, let's see. No, it's right here. Okay. So in that 1 hour, you want to go through that checklist. Let me pull this up really quick. The new model. Okay. So 5 minutes to write, right? We proved that, right? Because this tool wrote this piece in under 4 minutes. So then you want to take an hour to edit it. And you want to think about the framework, right? We're going to cut the fluff. We're going to make it better. We're going to optimize the content. We're going to review. So let's do that. I'm going to show you what that looks like for a couple minutes. I mean, I'm sure you don't just want to watch me write all day today. You probably have better things to do. So we'll kind of cut that short, but I'll show you a little bit of it. So one thing I'm going to do is, besides like we added in the Oxford comma, right? We're going to add in better punctuation. I'm going to add the dash, the correct dash. And then every few minutes, I'm just hitting save. And I learned the other day, don't have 2 of these up in different tabs. You probably know that, but that's something I did by accident. Oops. So something that I'm going to do is copy this primary keyword and then put it in there a few more times. Like, that's something I'm going to do as I edit the content and make it better. So we're breaking up these paragraphs. We're cutting down the fluff. Like, if I was to read this, right, what is a blog? A blog is an online platform where content creators can share their thoughts, ideas, and stories with their audience. It is typically updated regularly and allows for comments from readers. That could be said better, right? And again, if we think about this, like, what did Ernest Hemingway say? The first draft of anything is crap, right? That's not what he said, but you know what I mean. So you want to delete the crap and make it read better. Make it better, right? I'm editing my own words now. So this is good. I don't think we needed an extra sentence. And if you go up here, right, we have sections we can delete. So thinking about that, we want to probably cut more than average from this piece. And honestly, I could have, whenever I was creating the post, right, in projects, I could have selected a lesser word count. So that's something for you guys, whenever you're putting a content piece together, and this is in your calendar, right? You can direct the word count whenever you write the actual piece inside the tool. So might not have needed 2,500 words for this because the average is 1,000, right? The range is 1,000. So in the future, that's something you can direct before it even writes it. So So what you're going to do is add in the keyword a few more times, fact check. And I know we had a question on fact checking. So, something that I would want to know, and I've done this before, especially whenever we do a piece that has a primary claim that relates to the amount of money you make. So, for example, we had a blog that said how much coaches earn. Well, you want to make sure that number actually matches your rates, right? And it's funny because the piece that we wrote on the spot, it had the actual number that the coach charged. So that was cool, but that's not always going to happen. So for you guys, what I would do is look through this with your expertise and make sure that these are things, like, for example, if we're talking about optimizing the newsletter so it doesn't slow down loading times, like, is that something you teach as well? If so, that's awesome. And if not, you want to edit it to where it relates to, the curriculum you have, the things you say. Like for me in books, right, I might say a claim. So I just want to streamline all of that. I want to make sure that anything I say on the blog is correct to my process as a company owner, as somebody that's behind putting my products together. So then you want to read through, the main sections and just continue this process. And like I said, we could sit here and just make this whole thing better, but you probably have better things to do. So you want to save an hour for this process. We're going to fact check, right? You're going to add images, add screenshots. Like for this piece, what you could do is, if we're talking about open rates, you could bring in, and this is where I'm going to jump over to trust building, and I'm going to do two things at once, the A and the T. So if I was to say our average open rate is, 55% or whatever it is, then what you could say is trust build with a story. So one of our clients, yada, yada, hired us to build her course. We launched her course to the list, and I'm just going to make a note here. Tell a personal story that gives both a data point. So you're going to teach, right? You're going to teach your readers, like, this is what a good open rate is, or this is an average. This is what to expect. And then you're going to bring in that story. And then you're also building sales, right? And then what you can do is get a screenshot of what you're talking about. So if I was to say, with one of our clients' launches, we were able to achieve a 30% open rate on the email launch for the course. And here's what that looked like. Right? So this is where you're building up proof for a point, and then you can actually pull in a real story from a customer. So that's something you can do. And if we're talking about blogs and newsletters, you could add that in too. So one of our clients that we did a blog, we helped them with their blog and their newsletter, depending on the service you do. Obviously, I don't know exactly what you do in your business, but that's how I would weave multiple things in at once. So you're getting that visual, right? You're getting some data there, and then you're telling a story, and you're tying it to sales because it's a client story. So win, 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 right? In multiple ways. But this piece does need some work, right? Like, we are not here trying to say this is publish ready. And that's where the AIO really comes into play. You need a writer that can sit through this and make it great and cut the fluff, right? Like, this is an extra word I see popping out at me. Like, we need to break this up. We need to make this better. We need to add links back to sources. So once you run that framework, you include all of these keywords, and you're putting in these keywords in different ways throughout this piece, then you've achieved something you can actually publish, right? And that's what's really cool. Like, if you think about sitting down and having to write all this from scratch, that would take forever, hours, right? So that's the process that we're saving. That's the time, that's the stress, that's the cost of content production that we're saving. And, honestly, multiple tools too, because you have this checklist right here on the right. And you have details here. You can, one of your questions was the Copyscape plugin. So this is it. Our tool directly connects to Copyscape, and you can get to it from the review section in the editor, and then you just click request plagiarism scan, and it runs it through Copyscape, and it tells you if it's duplicate or not. And like Josh said, like I have seen typically 0%. And it's really cool, right? Because it's not our plagiarism tool. It's the leading one. Like for 10 years, I ran a writing agency. Copyscape was the one we used. So when I heard that this integrates to Copyscape, that's amazing. That really gives you peace of mind that you're publishing original content. Okay. So this is going to go to you afterwards. And by the way, look at this title, Blog versus Newsletter, which is best for empowering creators. That's a good title. That's probably something your audience would click on from your email newsletter. And I even like the meta. I've always liked the meta that this tool writes. Get the scoop on blog versus newsletter now. That's really good. So is this. So it writes good content. The opener, the hook is amazing. That's something I've noticed typically as well, is that hook, the first sentence, right? Which I have spent years of my life teaching writers how to write hooks. You know, you got to start with a question or an impactful statement. You can't just start the writing the content before you write a hook. So all of it's here. The structure is here. And that to me is like the half the magic, if not more, of this tool. Okay, so this blog is going to go to you after, but don't forget, you know, to keep going through the writer's framework, right? We want to make it better. We don't just want to go straight from the tool to publishing. And gosh, the hour went fast. It's already noon. So let me go ahead. Let's do like 5 more minutes for questions because I know that you guys have some. So let me put Josh back on the screen. Josh, I'm giving you no heads up. I'm just putting you on the screen. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was furiously typing away. So I'm glad you can't turn on my camera, or else it would have probably been just the top of my head. So
let's do 5 more minutes for Q&A. I think we still have a lot of people here. Oh my gosh, over 100 people still. Amazing. And Marvelous just said, thank you so much. So if you want to DM us, if you're on Facebook, what would be the easiest way they could give us their email so that we can send them this blog post? Probably a DM on Facebook. Just shoot us your email.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Cool. Languages. I've seen a couple about languages. We do right now translate our content into other languages. We're working on natively writing several languages, so that's coming in the very near future. But right now we do offer more than 100 languages that you can choose from in the project settings to choose, and then we're actually working on having the AI natively write in those languages, so it makes the content quality that much better.
Amazing.
Matt, I see. I'm not sure what the total package is. Do you mean like the done for you? Listicle top tip. So I will say that we do have listicle frameworks in the works. I can't give any sort of time frame or something like that, but that is something in the works. Obviously, it's a very popular blog format. That is something that we are working on as well, or Justin and the team. The $150.
You just saw the same question I did.
Yeah, that's for 4 credits a month, and that's going to give you 4 long form articles, just like the one Julia gave you the sample of. Yeah, so you can check out the details on our. If you go to ContentScale.ai, there is the done for you link there. You can also send me an email, Josh@ContentScale.ai, and I can talk to you more about that, Matt. But yeah, we usually do keyword research. Our team handles the content, goes through the basically what is the craft process, and then we actually put it on your site for you. Escape 9 to 5 with less. You can sign up for our list, and then you'll get access to our beta page where you can see our plans. So you sign up for the list at ContentScale.ai, and then you will get access to the beta page where you can take a look at all of our plans, and you'll be on the list as well, so you can see any future updates there.
We got 2 more questions. You see those, Josh?
Yeah.
And now it's 4.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. All right. You can. There is a feature. There's a CTA feature right now, so it's not teaching the AI, but you can insert the same call to action, one after the intro and then one after the conclusion. So it'll have your language, or for instance, if you're writing a newsletter service or something like that, and you have the blog versus newsletter, you can put in a call to action saying sign up for our newsletter, and at the end you can say talk to us about writing your newsletter or something like that, and it would go into every piece of content. That's the only way now. There's no way to train our AI right now, but you can insert calls to action. Service pages, you can try service pages. We're purpose built for informational content, as Julia was talking about. So you can try it, especially with the customize option. We've had some agencies build out service pages, landing pages, things like that. But I always put the caveat in there that we are purpose built for content marketing, informational content, SEO.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
The FAQs are in Google's QA schema, so they're to help you show up when the people also ask and things like that. If that's that question. They're scrolling way too fast. Thank you, Jeff, so much for pulling them up here. Short form option. Not really sure what you mean short form. You can choose the amount of content that you have by going through the range. There is a way to have the AI, and I was answering comments. I'm not sure if you covered this, Julia, but you can insert a custom AI header within the content. So for instance, if the AI wrote a sentence and you're like, oh, that's great, it needs to be a full section, you can hit the H in the editor, and then you can put the title of your header in there, give it individual context, and the AI will write an H2 heading right there in the finished article, and it doesn't cost a credit.
Marcos is awesome.
Thank you, Marcos.
Did you see the question from Matt? It was up there, Jeff. Maybe I'll put it on the screen. I see it right here. Let me do that. This is a really good question. At the end of the day, is it fair to say you are a traditional high-quality copywriting firm that is using AI as a jumping off point to improve efficiency and pricing rather than bringing to market new technology? So I ran a writing agency for 10 years, right? I sold it in 2021 knowing that this was going to emerge. But what I didn't see was technology yet in the market that could actually replace the human writer. ContentScale has built that. So I would disagree completely. We are definitely not, a copywriting firm. I know we have done for you services, right? But those done for you services are built around the ContentScale as the engine. So no, we're bringing to market a new technology, 100%. We totally are. And this is the first time I found something that can actually replace quite a wide amount of those new content writers that, you're training. You shift them into AIO, right? Instead of replace them, you can shift them into that, and they can do a lot more content now. You don't have to train them. You don't have to put them through SEO courses. Everything's right there with the on-page checklist. And it just got so much easier. So that was a good question, and one I wanted to address.
Yeah. Internal linking. So if you use WordPress, we have a feature of our plugin that's called auto links. And basically you can put in a term and then have it always link to a certain piece of content. We have a lot of publishers who do affiliate marketing. And what they'll do is they'll have their review post for top 10 products for a certain thing. They'll also create 20 or 30 informational articles pertaining to those affiliate products. And then every time a product is mentioned, they will link it to their affiliate page. And that's kind of their funnel. So they draw in organic search traffic. They send it to, that's just one example of how to use it. But we also have some external linking capabilities coming. But again, that's something to sign up to the list for. I did see we have more integrations for tools like Wordflow. We do have more integrations coming. I'm not going to say specific platforms, but we do have some coming very, very soon. I do hear Webflow's name quite a bit, so I would imagine we would at least look into that, but I can't make any promises, Eric. I did see secondary keywords. It's a question we get a lot. because as you build your topics, there's obviously a lot of other keywords that belong into that content to help it to rank. You can't directly insert secondary keywords into the content, but you can add those into context. So if you use that customized tool that Julia showed off, you can put the secondary keywords in the actual heading, or you can ask the AI to mention it in the context. And that's the best way for now to actually do that. Yes. In the customize, you can customize the brief however you'd like. Keep in mind that each section is going to be an H2 section. And then you can also add individual headings after a piece of content is created, and you can change those to H3 as well. Sometimes the AI will include H3s, but in the customize outline feature, it's an H2. Ivana, I haven't seen any data on auto links. I know one big tool that uses is another tool, Link Whisperer. They're probably one of the first in the market, and I've seen a lot of people, including myself and some of my sites, who've seen a lot of success with improving the interlinking structure, because all that does is when Google crawls your site, it helps them figure out what your site is about easier. Because they'll crawl a page and they'll see the internal links and the supporting content, and it helps you build that topical authority when Google actually searches it, because it sees so much related content linking together. So the better you're interlinking, usually the better results you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, another technical question, but if you hover over your profile in the top right corner, you'll see billing. If you go there, it will show you all the upgrade options and everything else that you can do there, including if you need an invoice for whatever purposes. Now, you can add any domain. So each project you create, we recommend that it be at the URL level. So whatever, client site is one project, client number 2 is another project. And then you can, link those up to WordPress. You can have more than one WordPress plugins going at the same time. It's our service is based on the credits that you use, not on the number of sites that you use it for.
Good question.
Yeah, there is a limit that you do hit. It's right now it's at 10 on that customized outline, so you can have up to 10 headers. And for that, so we've had some people try to do listicle content, where it's like top 20 beaches in Brazil, and they might do 2 credits for that, where they list out the context for each beach, and then they'll do another set of 10, and they'll get like just a massive 10,000 word list of beaches.
Nice. This question, what I could do is, that's a question that's best answered right through actually showing you, because it can be a little tricky to get to it. So the API key for the WordPress plugin, if you go to projects, you click the 3 dots on the top right, click connect WordPress, you'll see the API key. So there you go. And let me stop sharing my screen so we don't see Inception here.
Yeah.
We have more questions. You want to do another 5 minutes, Josh?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Maximum article word count. I don't think we have one generated by the AI. It's probably going to max out at around 5K, 6K words based on the 10 headers and adding custom headers. But you can continue to work in the editor. Like I think, Julia, you just published one that was almost 6,000 words a couple days ago.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, following the framework, like we added a lot of personal story, right? That was a piece on AIO. So, it took a lot of human there, but I would say at least 4,000 words was by the tool, and it was good content, which is,
I'm
if
you've enjoyed the AIO teaching, go to the blog, go to the blog and check out the AIO post. You'll see Julia's and Justin's faces, half AI, half, whatever that trend is right now. So
a little weird. We're jumping on it.
API. I don't have a status update for the API. Just simple answer if I don't know. However, if we ever introduce that, I know it'll be a big deal. So we'll make a big announcement about it. So I do see, do credits roll over? Yes. Credits do roll over at the end of each month, and they stay active for as long as your account is active. You cannot get credits without a subscription right now. Oh, and I see Jeff, sorry. After producers. Yes, there is. I just explained that there is an H. It's a additional custom heading tool that you could click that, and you can add the header and then also your context, and it'll produce another section within the content itself. Julia covered that at the beginning. Google has basically, they were a couple weeks away from introducing their own AI, so they kind of, not so much quietly, but they've never really been outward about their algorithm. But they basically said, as long as the content is helpful, it's not necessarily going to hurt you if it's AI generated. So the goal has always been to produce great content, and if AI helps you do that, then it shouldn't necessarily get pinged by Google. Sometimes there are issues with themes, just like with every others, except our plugin is literally putting content onto your site, which is the purpose of WordPress. So ours does have a little bit more of a finicky time sometimes, but usually it's an issue with either a security plugin or the host. And theme builders, since they do so many custom elements and they edit so much of the code, sometimes it can cause a bit of an issue there, Marcos. That's a good question. I don't believe so right now, but it is something that would be very, very useful in terms of previous keyword history. You can see all the posts that you did, and you can go into them individually, but it'd be helpful to see that. Actually, I guess there is a way on the individual article basis. So if you go into the article and you go into the brief tab and you hit rerun, it will show you your previous context. It won't rerun the article until you actually click a couple more times, but it will show you the context that you did use. Yeah, there's an option to do, I believe it's like 500 to 1,000 or 500 to 1,200, something like that. And I do recommend that. I give this up when I'm doing onboardings. I give this example. I have a home and garden site, and I wrote an article about, can a chicken lay eggs without a rooster? And
nice.
yeah, if I write a 3,000 word guide about that, it's never going to rank because, I'm obviously stuffing keywords and keywords and keywords into it. So yeah, less than 750 words is more than enough to answer a very simple question. And then of course, once I would run that article, I would take a look to see the average number of words that Google or that our algorithm pulled in, and then adjust it based on that, maybe rerun it.
Awesome. I think we covered just about all the questions. Oh, we got one more.
Yeah, so you can't like highlight and then rerun a section of text. You can rerun the whole piece. I would recommend maybe like highlighting that, and then you can insert the custom heading again, and then adding different context. So I get you can't just like highlight it and rerun. But so say if you had a section of content that you wanted to take out, but you really wanted it to go again, I would take that content, cursor down, put that heading in again with the custom heading section, add the context, and then rerun it there. And if it's better, then delete the old content. Yeah, so our plugin would be, essentially like it's coming from you, like you created the plugin, and other things like that. So that way it looks like, ContentScale is actually your in-house content generator.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yes. So, and that's also true for a 5,000 word article. It's based on, so like the The tool is helping you produce the best content for the keyword that you entered. And sometimes, like I mentioned, if you put a 2,500 word article for something that no one else is doing more than 500, then that could actually be negative in your SEO. So the value there is actually in the optimization, the SEO, not necessarily the word count, and all that data being pulled in together, would tell you that word count. And sometimes it is. It's going to be 5,000-6,000 words, and sometimes it's going to be 500.
Nice. Amazing,
Nice.
Paul.
Yeah, when you rewrite content, it is gone. There's a warning when you're going to rerun content. It does say you're about to lose it. If you're testing something, so say the content wasn't bad, but you tried different tones of voice. Say you tried to put in a word for you put in a custom word, which I just found out too, that you could do for tone of voice, and it comes back. You're like, okay, this is not. It's okay, but it's not what I wanted. It's too brash or whatever, and you can download that content, export it to Word, and then go in, change your tone of voice, and then go back and rerun it. So that way you would have basically a hard copy of that to compare and contrast. And that's for any change you make. If you want to rerun that, I would recommend downloading that beforehand.
Awesome. Well, I think we can wrap. This was so much fun. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun. I can't believe how many of you showed up. We had 250 registered, and I know we had at least half that. So that is amazing. So a shout out to all of you just for being here and making this possible. We couldn't build this brand without any of you. A brand is a brand because of its people. So thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. And I know we'll do more. Right, Josh? We got more on the horizon.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yes. So stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to our YouTube channel, ContentScale. Jeff is behind that, and the content is so good. He's got some skills. And be sure to follow the Facebook page, and you can check us out at ContentScale.ai. Subscribe as well. If you sign up for beta access, you'll automatically be subscribed to the blog. And we send a weekly digest with all of our new content. So adios. It's been awesome to hang out with you all. Any last words, Josh?
No, thank you all for coming and everything Julia said. Look out for the AIO term. It's going to be everywhere.
Yes, it is. It's just the beginning. Awesome. We will talk to you guys later. Thanks for being here.